Hey guys, it's Sam, and this is Top 5 Wednesday, as well as the Booktube SFF Awards Book Babbles crossover topic. So if you are new to Top 5 Wednesday, or you don't know about the Booktube SFF Awards, I will link pertinent links down below and on the screen talking about those things. I'm also going to cheat in this video because this is going to be, it's supposed to be a Top 5 Wednesday topic, and it is, and many people will be limiting their list to 5, but this is our favorite science fiction and fantasy books, and I am not going to limit myself to 5 because I tried to pick and then I got like really stressed out and I was like, there's no way I'm gonna pick, I'm just gonna go with every single one. So these are not ranked in any way. You're gonna know all of these, and for people who've been asking me to do like a favorite books of all time video, this is basically gonna be that because these are pretty much all of my favorite books in science fiction and fantasy, and my favorite books tend to be science fiction and fantasy. So very few contemporary other books are left off this list. At one point, maybe in the future, I'll do a list of like everything. But today, it's science fiction and fantasy. That's what it's about. There's a lot on this list, and you're gonna know all of them, so I'm not gonna go into describing like a ton of them because I've talked about them before. These are my faves. Let's just get this out of the way. The Grishaverse by Lee Bardugo. Duh. I love this world. I love these books. I love all the characters in them. I love the magic system. I love everything. Bam. Also, The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, my favorite standalone fantasy novel of all time. It's beautiful and atmospheric, and I think about it constantly, and I'm always searching for a book that feels like that. If you haven't read it, you probably should. I talk about it constantly. The Magician's Trilogy by Lev Grossman is like the quintessential trilogy for fantasy fans. It is so good. It talks about like mental health and depression especially, and it twists all your expectations for fantasy. It plays around with tropes. It is nostalgic for a lot of people. If you are at all familiar with fantasy, the genre in general, and big fantasy works in it and stuff, you will enjoy this. Characters are typically pieces of shit, but they're realistic, and they're amazing, and they're incredibly flawed, and it's awesome. And it's, if people in our world got magic, this is how they would act. It's great. The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. This series is amazing and makes me feel a lot of feelings and is so incredibly smart and is so incredibly witty, and it's wonderful. It has less magic and more like alchemy. So far I've only read the first book, but it's wonderful, and friendship is so important, and like found families, and it's great. I'm gonna say it's great for like all these books, but they're all great. That's why they're on the list. A recent new love is Temeraire by Naomi Novik. This is the first book in a long series, and it's about the Napoleonic Wars with dragons. The people bond with their dragons and become part of the Aerial Corps, which is like the Air Force, except for back in the day, and with dragons. It's amazing. It's super cute, but also like has very serious moments, and is just wonderful, and the characters are great, and the characters have like really great moral codes, which are always challenged, which is like a really cool thing to be reading about, and the dragons are very important to me. I love them. The Girl of Fire and Thorn series by Ray Carson. This is a great young adult series. It doesn't get enough credit. I talk about it all the time, and I hype it all the time because it deserves more credit than it gets. It takes place in a Latin American / Spanish inspired society. Basically everybody's a person of color. The main character is a larger girl. It's so good. It has one of the best romances ever, which doesn't even come into effect until later, and is not even a major plot point, but like, hot damn. The Mistborn Trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. I should grab all of them, but I don't want to because I don't want to hold all of them up. This is one of my favorite series ever. It's so good. If you haven't read it, just do it. If you want to get into adult fantasy and you're like a YA reader especially, it's a really good introduction to adult fantasy. It's like a good Bridgeway book. It's wonderful. It's about a heist, basically, and everything kind of goes from there, and like revolution and rebellion and like blah. It's great. And friendship and the powers and magic systems are really cool, and everyone knows about Mistborn by now, so I shouldn't really be talking more about this than I already did. You guys know. The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. This is a very character-driven story about a crew of multi-different species, aliens and stuff, on a spaceship, and you get little like character studies of all of them, and learn about their like society and everything, and how they all interact, and their friendships, and just the things that happen to them. It's so amazing, especially if you like Mass Effect, the video game series that I talk about in every video. This is so good. I need to read the second book in the series, the duology. I need to soon, and I haven't. Speaking of not continuing on with series that I should have a long time ago, the Old Man's War series by John Scalzi. This was my first introduction to John Scalzi, and it's so funny. It's great. It's like a space opera type story, but it's basically taking place in the future, where when someone turns, I think it's 75? Yes, 75, they get the option to join the military, and nobody understands why that is. and what happens, but our main character obviously turns 75 and gets to discover what happens with that, and it's amazing. It's just space fight, military-y goodness without being over the top. Like, it's not super battle scene-y, it's more like looking at the characters and what's happening with them, which is really cool. It's a lot of fun. I need to finish reading this series and continue reading this series. Like, I loved this book. It's so easy to read. It's wonderful. That one's a good introduction to sci-fi if you're not used to it, because it doesn't have all the really heavy, scary, hard sci-fi terms that some of them have. The Wrath and the Dawn duology by Renee Ahdieh. Again, amazing. Young adult retelling of 1001 Nights. Really great, with magic and stuff. I mean, really, this entire shelf we can just talk about. We can just go on the line and talk about. The Wondrous Curse by Rutkowski, one of the best young adult fantasy trilogies. It's amazing. I was a little mildly disappointed by the finale, which is why I think I don't talk about it as much, but the first 2 books, bomb. The Remnant Chronicles by Mary E. Pearson, again, amazing, amazing. I feel like I would have liked it if it was a little bit more magic-y, but overall, amazing, and I love the characters so much. This deserves to be taken out. Uprooted by Naomi Novik. Naomi Novik is appearing again on this list. Another standalone. It's amazing and wonderful, and I love the magic in here. Of course, my memory card died and threw off my entire game, but where was I? Uprooted. Again, one of my favorite standalone fantasy novels. I just love the world in here. I love the characters. I love the magic system. Some people complain that it like doesn't make sense and there's no rules. Well, it's magic, so is there always supposed to be rules for it? No. Do I like magic systems that have rules? Yeah, it's cool, but like, this is just beautiful, and it's like nature-based and wonderful, and it has a lot of like, I think it's mostly Polish folklore mixed in. Makes me happy. Then we have Truth Witch by Susan Dennard. This series is amazing. I've talked about it a lot lately, so I'm not going to go into it at all, but I love the characters, and it's based around friendship, and I like the magic system. It's really cool. It's a fun time. If I haven't convinced you to read it yet, I'm not going to, so... Illuminated by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman is one of my favorite young adult sci-fi books. I didn't really like Gemina that much, but this book is a wild ride, full of twists. I actually really like the format, I love the characters, and it has a whole AI component, and I feel a lot of feelings about AI stories, and this one is great. The Star-Touched Queen by Rashi Chakshi is a Hades Persephone retelling with a lot of Indian folklore and stuff mixed in. It's amazing. The writing is beautiful and just very, like, flowery, but in a really good way because it's really good writing, and there's just a lot of weird stuff mixed in, and it's angsty and it speaks to me on so many levels. The Graceling series by Kristen Kishore was one of my first fantasy novels that I ever read and adored, and I just love the whole series. The one common thread throughout the series is the villain, but it takes place in different timelines, and it's just wonderful. They're all companion stories, and people in the first book have graces, and those are kind of like magical abilities sort of and stuff, and I just love the characters and the character continuity throughout, while also introducing new characters because it is a companion series. So good. Kristen Kishore is finally writing a new book, and I feel very blessed because I've been waiting. The Abhorson series by Garth Nix is another one I've talked about. It's kind of almost, at this point, coming a little bit of like classic YA because it was YA before YA was really a genre. But it's about the Abhorson who can go in between life and death and has to bind the dead using magic and a series of magical bells, which sounds kind of weird, but it's not. It's creepy without being too creepy because you guys know that I cannot handle horror of any kind, but it's awesome. And it's the first series that introduced me to the whole between life and death thing, which is one of my prevailing favorite tropes of all time. Then we have Wicked by Gregor Mcguire, which I don't talk about a ton, but is really good. This book is probably kind of hyped because of the musical that goes along with it, but that isn't at all like it because this is a ton different. Came first, obviously, because it's the book that the musical was based on. And is incredibly dark, and when I first read it, I was not that into it. It took me a long time to read it. I felt like it was really slow. I read it a few years before I even had Booktube, and I just was like, I'm not really into this. But I still think about this book a lot. I still think about the themes in this book. I still think about everything, and just everything about it. It is a retelling. I think that this is one of the best retellings that I've ever read because it's made itself its own story, but also holds on to a lot of the key themes from the original, and it's just magnificent. I love it. I gave it 3 stars at the time, but I would probably raise it a little bit. I just think it's really good. The Assassin's Curse and the Pirate's Wish duology by Cassandra Rose Clark. This is one of my favorite duologies of all time. It's so, so good. Pirates and assassins in a magical land, basically going on like a magical road trip via sea and sky and whatever they can really manage. It's awesome. This book series wasn't available for the longest time because this publisher for these covers closed down, but I just went to Barnes & Noble the other day. If you follow me on Snapchat, you saw me talking about this. They have it now. I think it's Saga is doing it now, is publishing it, and so they have it in like a bind-up. Go buy it. It's so good. Then we have Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. You guys know because this is highly hyped on Booktube. I've only read the first book, but it's about angels versus demons, but really chimera, and it's really good. I am not into angels and demon stories at all. At all. I put this book off for a very, very long time, but this writing is beautiful. The world is unique, and even the story of the angels versus demons is incredibly unique, and I loved it. So if you guys are putting it off because you're like, ew, angels, because I'm not into that either, it's really good. I should have read it sooner. What was I doing? I need to continue this series. It's amazing. And last but not least, we have The Queen of the Tearling by Erika Johansen. This is a fairly recent read, but I already adore this series. I can't wait to continue with it. This is I would say more of like a low fantasy series, but I haven't really gotten far enough into it to really tell. But I love the characters in this. I love how realistic they are. I love how flawed they are and human they are, and I adore them. So that is it for my current favorite science fiction and fantasy books. These are probably all pretty predictable. I talk about these books frequently. They pop up in multiple Top 5 Wednesday topics. These are my faves. These are my faves. So comment below and let me know your favorite science fiction and fantasy books. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye!